Hello party people, it is Will Pemble. I am coming to you from an undisclosed location as I get ready to really start with the van build. The van is coming in just a couple of days. I'm incredibly excited. Putting together cabinetry stuff, putting together work stuff, putting together mechanical stuff, putting together welding and framing and all sorts of cool stuff. One of the things that I absolutely love about the van build so far is that it wants everything. It wants electrical work, it wants CAD design, it wants cabinetry, it wants mechanical stuff. We're gonna have to get into the engine of a car. We're gonna do all the things. And along the way, we're gonna be able to transfer all of these new skills into the awesome coaster build. And as soon as the snow stops snowing, we are going to build what I think we're gonna end up calling Prince Dakar, which is gonna be a miniature version of King Dakar out in the front yard. But in the meantime, I've got to get my cabinetry on. The way I'm going to start doing this is by building a couple of what's called apple boxes. If you're in the TV business, you know what an apple box is. It's just like a little cube that you can use for all sorts of awesome things. So I need some apple boxes and I'm going to build them using my awesome new Craig Acu cutting system or whatever they call it, and some and this really cool little biscuit joiner that I just got, bunch of fun things. So let's get started. My first experience with apple boxes was when I had the amazing adventure to be part of a little TV show called Risky Biz, and you can find it on Facebook Watch. It's silly, it's ridiculous, it's fun. I had so much fun. It was like one of the best months of my life was filming this show. And what I learned in that experience was a couple of things. One of the important things I learned in that experience was that if there's an apocalypse, you can have all the doctors. I want guys from the art department. I want guys who can build anything. And art department people on this show, and just art department people in general, they're just absolutely amazing. They're professional, they're sweet, they're insanely talented. They can build anything out of anything with no notice and whatever's in front of them. So apocalypse, go get art department people. One of the main tools they use is this thing called an apple box. Now, I've modeled up an apple box in Fusion 360, which is the software that I like to use. And you can see right here, what it is very simple. It's just a box. It's a rectangle. It's a cube-ish. It's got 6 sides. The dimensions of an apple box are 20 inches long by 12 inches wide by 8 inches tall, I think. With little slots in the ends. There's full apple boxes, which is what we're gonna build today, and then there's a half apple box, and then there's a fourth apple box or a smaller one or something like that. Apple boxes are everywhere in production. They're all the same size, and there's even configurations. And so if you set an apple box on its side, that's called Los Angeles style. If you set it up on its side so it's a little bit taller, 12 inches high, that's Chicago. And if you stand it on its end, that's New York. And so the skyscraper, the high version. So if you say, put an apple box over there in New York, that means I'm gonna put an apple box over there, I'm gonna stand it on its end. I'm gonna be building all this incredible stuff, the van and everything, and I want some apple boxes. And I figured this is a great time to practice my cabinetry and maybe break in the tools a little bit. If you look at our drawing of an apple box, what you'll find is that it is 20 inches long, it's 12 inches wide, and it's 8 inches high. So the way we're going to build it is we need 2 tops, 2 sides, and 2 ends, and we'll call them tops, sides, and ends. The tops are 20 by 12, and that's where we're gonna start. If you look at this piece of plywood, you'll see that it has grain. This is just 1/2-inch birch plywood. I got it at the big box store. It's nothing special. I'll probably finish these with something when I'm done. We'll figure out that when we get there. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to grain match as much as possible when I build the thing. So instead of measuring out 12 inches from the side and then measuring out 11 inches from the side, if you go from there, what'll happen is the grain will shift when it goes from the top to the side. And I'd love it to be just kind of like beautiful so that the grains seem to wrap all the way around. So what I'm gonna do is measure 12 inches out from the side of this board so that I can do my top and my bottom. But then when I get the ends, which are 11 inches wide, I'm gonna center those on that 12-inch wide piece so that the grain matches when it goes from the top to the end piece. It's a ridiculous, no big deal thing. This is an apple box. It's just a crate that we're gonna use to stand on or prop stuff up or sit on or use as a step. But, you know, if you're doing something, you may as well do it nice, right? So that's gonna be the first step in our process. So I'm just gonna measure out and draw a beautiful line 12 inches. There. 12 inches here. 12 inches here. Now, I don't have all my tools because a lot of my tools are kind of in transit, or I don't know, they're somewhere. So to a certain extent, we're working without tools, and I want to make sure that I've got my 12 inches just exactly perfect here. For my straight edge, I'm going to use the Kreg AccuCut or whatever. It's a plunge saw track, or a track saw track, that I can use just as my straight edge. And then I'll show you how awesome the track saw situation can get. So that's my 12-inch long piece. And so my first cut is going to be along there. Watch how cool the track saw gets. So the way this track saw works, it's a plunge saw made by the nice folks at Kreg, who are not paying me to tell you that. But if you look at the way a track saw works, what you'll see is that it plunges right down here. You'll see the blade sits in the up position, and then when I pull the trigger, the blade will push down through the board so that I can set up this track, and then it follows the track just exactly perfect all the way down to the end. And so I'll get this beautiful straight cut without having to wrestle with giant pieces of wood on a table saw, or in this case, without having to even have a table saw, which I don't have here at my undisclosed location. What I can then do is set the plunge depth using this little stopper from 1 inch to 2 inches, or almost 2 1/4 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go just a little bit past a 1/2 inch, because this is 1/2 inch plywood, and I want to cut all the way through my plywood, but I don't want to cut all the way through my bench. So when I plunge the saw, it's going to plunge down to about 1 1/16, maybe, yeah, probably about, or forgive me, about a 1/2 inch plus a 1/16, maybe 9/16 of an inch. And that'll make this beautiful smooth cut all the way down the track to the end, and I'll end up with this really, really sweet, perfectly straight, perfectly square cut. One of the things I'm trying to do in my new wood shop vibe is try to be tidy. So I've put all my tools over there. I'm trying to keep this area really clean. I want to like go slow and carefully and thoughtfully. So I'm going to make a 12-inch long piece right here. Ready? Look at that. Very beautiful. Let's see how I did on my measurements. 12 inches. 12 inches. 12 inches. I'm a huge fan of the plunge saw. I'm wrestling with it a little bit. I don't know if I really want to embarrass myself this much by showing you the first apple box I built with the first couple of tries with the plunge saw. I was still kind of figuring some things out. What I figured out is that if I line it up with this edge of the track, what I end up with is wood that's I end up with cuts that are about 1/8 of an inch narrower than they need to be, and that can throw you off a little bit. And so I've ordered a couple of additions to this track, which is a thing that, which are little measuring tapes that connect in here to the track, and then they measure from that end so that you get super precise, accurate measurements, and you're not having to eyeball that 1/8 of an inch. But we did a pretty good job eyeballing it. Now I'm just going to cut. So this is going to be one piece at the top. This is going to be one piece at the top. This is going to be one of the edges. And so I get 20, 40, and then this edge is going to be 7. So I've got a 48-inch piece of wood here. I can get the top, the bottom, and one edge out of this piece of wood. So that's what we're going to do. Just look at how beautiful that cut is coming off a handheld saw. Just incredible. See how we're doing. We're looking for 20 by 12. That's 20. By golly, that's 12. So we're going to do that one more time. Those are pretty darn close. Now here's one of our ends, and if you look at it, we can grain match by cutting right down the middle. Okay, so if you remember from the CAD drawing, we ended up with 6 sides to our box, which just makes all the sense in the world. And then this ends up being kind of the net, if you will, of the box, right? Here's the bottom of the box. Here's the side. This side unfolds to here, and then the top unfolds out to here. So kind of this is, if you were to take our box and unfold it, this is what the pieces of the box would look like. And they're all pretty well cut. I'm proud of my work. I've learned a lot more about my awesome plunge saw, and I'm getting way, way better at that. It's gonna get so fast and so cool very, very soon. I'm gonna be able to like bang out cabinetry like nobody's business. Very excited about that. Let's look back at the CAD drawing of the Apple box. What you're gonna see is you're gonna see in the ends of the Apple box, the full-size Apple box, there are 2 slots in the Apple box, and that's so you can grab them and push them and move them around. And there's an industry standard for all of this. And so the slots are 1 1/4 inch wide, and they're 4 inches long on the centers. And so the radius or the diameter of each circle is 4 inches. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Forstner bit and we're gonna drill a 1 1/4 inch hole here, 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 here. Then we'll take a jigsaw and cut out those slots in each of the ends of our box. And that's the next step in making an awesome industry standard Apple box that hopefully my TV friends would be proud of. Okay, so if you remember, the box is 11 inches wide, or this piece here. Remember, this is 11 inches wide, so I'm just gonna take measure my 5.5 here, and I go 1 1/2. I'm just gonna measure down like that. Again, if I weren't in my undisclosed location and I had access to my drill press, I would just set up a little drill press jig that would allow me to do amazing things, and this would all be really, really easy. So I'm gonna put a hole here, 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 and here, and they're gonna be 1 1/4 inch holes, and you'll see how that works out absolutely beautifully. The holes should be 3 1/2 inches in from each side, and each hole should be 2 1/8 inches up from both the top and the bottom. That's where my holes are gonna be, and I will drill them now. Doesn't hurt to clamp things down. What I've got here is my 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit, and I'm gonna use that to make the ends of my slots. So, find the center of my hole, and off we go. That's not bad. Let's do that on the other one. Ooh, got a little carried away there. Uh-oh. For our next trick, we want to cut at the tangent of these holes so as to create awesome slots. Oops. Another thing that I really love about an Apple box is the rounded edges. They're all very smooth and beautiful and crafted, even the insides and the outsides of these slots. So when I grab it, I'm not grabbing onto something rough or yucky, I'm grabbing onto something that's beautiful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch radius router bit, and I'm gonna round out the inside and the outside of each of these handles. And then when we put the whole box together, I'm gonna round out all of the corners and the edges of the box so that it's this beautiful, wonderful thing. So that's the next trick, is to do some routing, which presupposes I know where the router is.
It's tough working in an undisclosed location.
Now I know how Tony Stark felt.
I have no idea how Tony felt. All right. That's beautiful. See, that's a little bit wonky. But again, these are just for like throwing around the shop, so I'm not gonna kill myself over that. But let's keep going. Those are looking pretty darn good. Really important to clamp your stuff down so that you're minimizing the number of moving parts you've got going on in the world, because life is complicated enough without having to hold stuff still that a clamp could be holding for you. So there, I've got a good handle. That's going to be the end of my bench. Now, I haven't even sanded this down or finished it in any way, but even now, it feels really, really good. It's strong, it's easy to grab a hold of. If I'm in the movie business or the production business, my muscle memory is going to fit perfectly with this handle, because this is exactly how every professional Apple box handle is built, just like that. Well, maybe not quite like that. Perfectly legit for my price range. Now I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up, because it's important to clean up along the way. Who knew Bob Vila was right all those years? And then we're going to get into the little biscuit joiner thingamajiggy, which is really fun and weird and fun. Be right back. For my next trick, what I want to do is connect this whole thing together, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to connect it together with screws, because if you're tacking something or dragging across or stretching fabric or something in the production business, you don't want any surprises like, oh my gosh, this wooden thing has a screw sticking out of it, or a nail or a staple or a tack or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these little doohickeys called biscuits. We're going to use biscuits and really strong glue to hold this whole thing together. This kooky machine is called a plate joiner. And what it does is it cuts little bitty holes. If you look, see that blade that sticks out of there? It cuts little bitty holes in which the biscuits go. So I'll show you how to do this. But I'm telling you right now, there's probably 50 people out there who can show you much better how to use a biscuit thingamadoo. For example, they probably wouldn't call it a biscuit thingamadoo. But basically what we want to do is we want to take this little blade, which sticks out of the end of the biscuit thingamadoo, and we want to cut a little hole, a little slot, right dead center of this profile of the board right here, so that we can put a biscuit in it, so that we can cut another hole. I'm just going to show you. All right. So along this, the long edge of our box, I want to put 3 biscuits. And I have decided, for no particular reason in no particular order, that I would like my biscuits to go at 3 inches, 10 inches, and 17 inches along the side. And I would like them to go at 3.5 inches along the end. So 3.5, I'll measure this one down that side so they're the same. Down this side so they're the same. Down this side so they're the same. And then up to our 3.5 inch on this side. For the top and the bottom of our box, all right. For the ends, with our beautiful handles, we want these to match up thusly, right? Great thing about an Apple box, if you do it right, is it is crazy symmetrical. With the top, I think we're just gonna do one in the middle, but remember, This one is 12 inches. And this one goes at 5.5 inches. If you match those up, you'll have a 1/2 inch on either side. For the sides of the box, the biscuits are gonna go in the sides of the plywood. For the top and the bottom of the box, the biscuits are gonna go in the top and the bottom of the wood because we're not gonna have anything connecting into the sides. So I've already learned the hard way that you shouldn't put the biscuits in the wrong place. I'm just gonna piece the box together real quick so I know where my biscuits are gonna belong. So I know I'm gonna put biscuits in the sides here, and the top, and the side here, but my biscuit's gonna go here in the bottom of my board, and here, and here in the sides of my board. This will go in the end here, yes. Ah, see? It doesn't go there, it goes here. I just like to try and go really, really slow and carefully when I'm doing something, especially when I'm doing something for the first time, even if I've watched 100 YouTube videos about it. So this only has biscuits on the face. This one has biscuits on the edge and the face. This one only has biscuits on the edge. There's 3 different kinds of biscuits in the world, and the way you adjust your joiner is by setting it to either 0 or 10 or 20. 20 is the largest biscuit, 0 is the smallest biscuit. There are only 3 sizes of biscuits. We're using the smallest ones, which are the number 0 ones, because this is only 1/2 inch thick wood, and that's gonna be plenty. The next thing we wanna do is we wanna adjust the location of the hole that our little biscuit doohickey is gonna cut. And that happens by turning this knob. You see this little plate that goes up and down? What this does is this adjusts where the board is going to get its hole drilled in it, and this one also adjusts the angle. So we want a 90-degree angle, and I'm just going to adjust the plate so that it goes down and it's flat with this board. I've adjusted this to 1/4 of an inch, which means that if I'm using 1/2 inch plywood, I want the center of my biscuit slot to be 1/4 of an inch down the board, which is going to center that right on the board. I'm going to show you this with just a piece of scrap here. See that? That's pretty darn close to center, and that's what we want. Play with it a little bit and tighten it down once you get it where you want it, and test it a lot on some scrap before you make a commitment and start poking a whole bunch of holes in the wood you just spent so much time lovingly sizing up. All right, I feel real good about this one. All right, I'll tell you what, that thing is heavy, and my arm is tired. All right, let's try fit this thing together and see if it fits. Biscuits go in the little slots. It's a good idea, in my humble opinion, to dry fit things together before you start smearing glue all over stuff. Now the goal is that we put this thing together and it's very smooth and beautiful on the outside and the inside, really, if you think about it. Well, it's smooth and beautiful everywhere. So now I mean, we're gonna clamp it and glue it down and all of that sort of stuff and clean up the biscuit holes where we need to, but this is, it looks promising, I think. First official apple box. All right, so now, clamps and glue. Now, a thing I don't have that any carpenter will tell you you should have is like a random orbit sander, because what I should do is I should like knock down the insides of these boxes and get them sanded and beautiful. I'm not gonna do that today, but you should do it when you build this. I gotta go get a random orbit sander, so I will sand the outside of it and finish it when I do all of that. But for you, maybe start with all the right tools. It's tough when you're in an undisclosed location. It's tough. Keep spinning this so you can see what's going on. What you doing? Show me what you're doing. Biscuit. Biscuit. Goo on that one. Spread these guys up a little bit. That's them. All right, we're just gonna do it gently for starters. I do not recommend these DeWalt clamps. I do recommend these Bora clamps. Oh my goodness, I have too many clamps, said no one ever. I think what I'm gonna do now, because I really don't have any choice, since I don't have any more clamps, if I had another 16 or 17 clamps, I would absolutely put them on this box. I found a couple of places where my cuts weren't just exactly perfect. I've got a lot more to learn with the beautiful Craig adaptive cutting system. That's what they call it. And I will learn those things. But basically all I have to do now is just like go have lunch, wait for this glue to dry, and then I'll come back this evening and I'll round out the corners and start to sand things down, maybe head off to the store and get that random orbit sander that we talked about. And I think we're gonna end up with a pretty awesome apple box. So let's take a break. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we have let our box dry for a little while. Now we will take away some clamps. I love these big, heavy Bora clamps. They are just crazy strong. Parallel jaws, beautiful. We'll have to keep those away from the welding machinery. So there is a pretty convincing apple box, if I do say so myself. It looks fairly similar to the drawing. I think what I want to do now is just take the router and do a 1/4 inch radius, just a round over on all of the edges of the box so that it's not sharp, but still square and beautiful. Back to the router, which I find to be a lot of fun. So here's a slight imperfection in my box. And I think what I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try just to use a cut bit and maybe just smooth that down a little bit. Sometimes you have to wear a respirator even when you're at home. This is my apple box. And you can tell me how much you think it looks like the drawing we made of an apple box when we first started. But I know it's heavy. Not a bad apple box. It's really fun to make. It's a really cool project. Just try to make a rectangle out of wood is a really good way to test your woodworking skills. I know I've had a great time. I'm gonna hit this with the sander a little bit more. We will get to working on the van really, really soon. We will get to working on the, I think I'm going to end up calling it, as I mentioned, Prince Dakar. I think I'm going to make a miniature version of King Dakar in the front yard in Connecticut. And as always, thank you for helping me bring physics, family, and fun to kids everywhere. I am Will Pemble. I'll see you soon.